Good morning. We're here today with all of our great partners to announce the results of Operation Staycation, which is an immigration-related operation that was performed here in Bay County and in Northwest Florida. And as you can see from the partners I've got behind me, this is a top priority at the federal, state, and local level on dealing with the illegal immigration issue. I'd like to introduce our partners from the Homeland Security Investigations, Enforcement and Removal Operations out of Miami and the Tallahassee Field Office with the Department of Homeland Security, the U.S. Department of Justice, the Panama City Beach Police Department, the Florida Highway Patrol, the Panama City Police Department, the Florida Department of Law Enforcement, Federal Bureau of Investigation, and the Drug Enforcement Administration. So behind me here, we've got Assistant U.S. Attorney Jason Cootie, ASAC Nick Ngegno. I told you I was going to mess that up. Cecil Queen, Assistant Commissioner David Binder with the FDLE, Major Fast and Chief John Gorley with the Highway Patrol, Special Agent Sean Roth with the FBI, Agent Renee Hatton with FDLE, SAC John Running with the FBI, Captain James Meeby with Panama City Beach Police Department, RAC Kevin Miller with the Drug Enforcement Administration, and Thomas Decker with Enforcement and Removal Operations. And again, that just highlights the commitment that we have at all levels of federal, state, and local government and the Sheriff's Office here to address the illegal immigration issue. We're announcing the results of Operation Staycation, which was a result of an operation that occurred over the last couple of weeks where 21 illegal aliens were arrested, 18 of those here in Bay County and 3 in Leon County. The countries of origin for those individuals were India, Venezuela, Nicaragua, Mexico, Guatemala, and Jamaica. And these are individuals that have overstayed their visa. And I've got ASAC Ingenue that is going to come explain some of that to you here in just a second. Most of those during this operation overstayed their temporary visas for tourism and recreation. Of those arrested, 4 entered the U.S. without any type of inspection. 1 re-entered after being previously deported, which is a federal felony, and 16 entered legally under a work, travel, or other visa program and overstayed, which is an abuse of the immigration system and a violation of federal law. So this is not just one operation. We've been working very closely together for many years, but especially since the change in administration, where this has become a focus at all levels. So since January 1st of 2025, Bay County law enforcement, along with our federal and state partners, have arrested 178 illegal aliens, have been arrested on state law charges, criminal charges, and have had ICE detainers placed on them, and they're subsequently transferred into federal custody at the end of their state charges. So this is, again, it's a priority and something that we've been working on. We also will increase our capacity to do these type of cases. Currently, prior to 2025, only agents from Homeland Security or Immigrations and Customs Enforcement had the authority to enforce immigration law. That has since been expanded to all of the federal law enforcement agencies. And then programs that we've previously participated in at the Bay County Sheriff's Office, which is known as the 287G program, which allows state and local law enforcement to have immigration-related authority to be a force multiplier for immigration and customs enforcement. We've got currently 18 deputy sheriffs that are going through the 287G process to have those credentials to be able to enforce immigration law in the community, as well as 19 of our detention deputies at the Bay County Jail will be warrant service officers, which will allow kind of a force multiplier for ICE as well by allowing our jail personnel to serve ICE-related detainers and warrants, just being a force multiplier for ICE. So we have a strong commitment to this enforcement effort and have already hit the ground running over the past 4 months, and we're just getting warmed up. So with that, I'd like to introduce ASAC Nick Ingenue with Homeland Security Investigations to give further information on this operation. Nick?
Yes, sir. Just want to thank everyone for coming. Thank Sheriff Ford for hosting us. Operation Staycation was a 2-day operation targeting visa overstays across the northern part of Florida, majority in Bay County and Panama City Beach, and a little bit in Leon County and Tallahassee. These people came on legit visas and then abuse that, which takes away from other people trying to obtain these visas. It's also a federal crime to enter illegally. It's a federal crime to overstay and set up residence when these visas expire. Some people ask, why are overstays so important? And if you remember, a majority of the hijackers of 9/11 were visa overstays, which means the United States let them into this country. They didn't leave when they were supposed to, and then they murdered over 3,000 Americans. Over here, you can see a great group of people here that have gotten together to meet Sheriff Ford's priorities, to meet the governor's priorities, and to also meet the White House's priorities. We have representatives from FBI, DEA, ATF, USCIS, DHS, FDLE, FHP, obviously Bay County, Pensacola PD, I'm sorry, not Pensacola PD, Panama City Beach PD, Panama City PD. It was just a great collaboration of this operation, and we see doing more of these operations, not only here, obviously across the state of Florida, as this is a priority for the agency. So I just want to thank everyone up here for their participation in making this operation a success. Here you can see some of the stats on this graph of the nationality and also the type of arrests. Of these 21 arrests, 3 were arrested criminally, 1 by the federal government, 2 by the state. And obviously there's some acronyms there, and here you can see what these visas and what these charges actually stand for, and that helps me a lot too, since I don't always remember them. But thank you very much.
Thank you. Now we'll open it up for a few questions.
You just really said why it's so important that this type of, why the overstays are important. Is that even more of a priority here when we are in an area where there are so many people working that may not have been born and raised here in Bay County?
Well, it's not about being born and raised here in Bay County. It's about flaunting federal immigration law and coming into this country illegally or overstaying a visa. A visa is an authority that's given by the federal government to stay for a certain period of time for work or travel or other purposes. And it is a clear violation of federal law to overstay that visa. So that, again, that is something, as Nick pointed out in the 9/11 situation, it's against the law to overstay a visa. And we're just getting started with this. It has taken some time to get some of these authorities, the 287G, the warrant service officer, in place, going from 0 to 100 miles an hour. So we are only going to continue to work together to address these issues.
And you mentioned it was a 2-day operation, and I know you also spoke about, like you just said, increasing that capacity to be able to do more operations like this. What would an ideal operation in the future, working with all of these partners, look like for you? Would you want to extend the period of time? Would you want to just have those additional 18 deputy resources? What would that look like in the future?
Right, so this is just a small example of the work that we've been doing for the past 5 months, a 2-day operation, and we wanted to highlight that, but it represents a continuing partnership. And again, this is before we have our full 287G and warrant service officer programs in effect. So what I see this becoming is more of a daily operation type situation, because we're here to announce these 2021 arrests, but the reality is over the last 5 months, we have arrested, Bay County law enforcement has arrested 178 illegal aliens that committed state criminal charges. That ranges everything from homicide, which we've had several involving illegal aliens, to drug trafficking, to driver's license violations. So again, once we have these the 287G individuals in place, Governor DeSantis, it's obviously a big priority of his. So a good number of highway patrol troopers, as well as FDLE agents and other state law enforcement, are going through that 287G process. So the capabilities and the authority to make this everyday enforcement operations is quickly becoming a reality. So the message would be, if you're here illegally, we take that seriously, and people may choose to leave on their own. If they're here illegally, there's also certain processes and steps that they can go through with the federal government to remain here as long as they didn't come in under, just come across the border or overstay a visa. But we take this seriously.
And just a follow-up on that 287G process that you mentioned. Can you tell me a little bit about what that looks like logistically for a deputy to complete, to be able to get that certification? What's the time period? What steps do they need to take? What are some of the things they're being taught?
Right, so it's when the Bay County Sheriff's Office was involved in that before it was phased out in 2012, I believe. It's a training program that they used to have to go to Charleston, South Carolina to take the program. Now with advances in distance learning, they're able to take a course online. I think it's a 40-hour course that gives them the basics of immigration enforcement. They actually get credentialed by the federal government to enforce immigration law. And obviously the experts are our partners with ERO and HSI, and they'll work closely with them. But the way we are structuring it here at the Sheriff's Office is that there will be a certain number of deputies on patrol that have that authority. And there will be individuals in our warrants division and criminal investigations division where we'll do operations, but it'll also become a part of our daily activities. If we pull somebody over that we believe is in the country illegally for a traffic violation, or we arrest them for a crime, that deputy that has that authority can respond to the scene and process the necessary paperwork to initiate the immigration and removal process. Right now, the resources that ICE has, especially in areas like the Panhandle, are not that great. So we want to be, or not that much. I know they're increasing that. We want to be a force multiplier and a good partner, along with the state is standing up those resources as well. So again, this will be more of our everyday activities as it currently stands. If somebody is pulled over on a traffic stop and they're here illegally, if they go to jail on a state charge, then we notify immigration and a hold is placed on that individual. And the limited ICE resources have to respond and process that. That will allow us to be a force multiplier and assist them in enforcing immigration law.
You mentioned how, again, this is on overstays, and Sheriff, I guess the question would be, how exactly for someone like myself that doesn't know exactly how someone entering the country on a legit visa, as y'all said, actually works, how do overstays actually happen? Meaning, I understand that y'all become aware of them whenever you're informed about it, or like you said, a traffic pullover, something like that. But does that mean there's not a process when it's coming up to the end of a visa to go and, I don't know if the word is fined, but can you kind of explain to me, someone who doesn't know, how overstays actually do end up happening, how someone ends up overstaying?
Nick or Tom, do you want to address that?
Yeah, so when an individual is granted a visa, and I'll go back to as far as being here, not born here, or working here. That's not the point of the overstays. The visas were issued, and they're issued for a reason, right? To either come here for education, to come here to work in Bay County. So we're not going after looking for people who have valid visas. We're not trying to deny visas for people. It's for overstays. So, for example, someone comes in, they want to come to Panama City Beach for spring break from London. They get their visa that allows them to stay for 2 weeks. Based on the process, the United States thinks they will honor that agreement, and within the 2 weeks, after the 2 weeks, they will leave this country. So a visa overstay can be simply as, hey, I'm going to stay an extra week and overstay it, which is not so common, or what we see a lot of, hey, I'm going to come here on a tourist visa, now I'm going to buy a car, I'm going to rent an apartment, and I'm just going to set up my shop here. Just a couple of weeks ago, we arrested a overstay for voting in the last election illegally, where she had no legal right to vote. And she had been here for 18 years overstayed, setting up her life. So each visa may be different depending on, student visa. You're allowed to stay here as long as you're enrolled in classes. After you're enrolled in classes, you have to get a new visa or you have to go back home. So really it's on the individual to leave the country when they're done with their visa. We won't be looking for people to remind them, hey, you need to go back home. That's part of the visa process of which they promise to do when we grant them their visa.
You mentioned day-to-day operations. You want this to be, this was a 2-day thing as we talked about, but y'all wanted to do
So we're committed, along with the federal and the state government here at the Bay County Sheriff's Office, and I know our police chiefs feel the same, that illegal immigration is exactly like it says. It's illegal. It's against federal law. We've seen the impacts of that from people coming into the country across the southwest border that we don't know who they are. Some of them have criminal histories back in their country of origin. We don't know that. We do know that on a U.S. citizen, and they're basically flaunting the U.S. law that's in place. There is a process by which an individual, and this country was built on that process, whereby an individual can legally enter the United States of America and become a citizen of the United States of America. But coming across the border or saying I'm going to go on vacation or I'm going to work for a period of time and overstaying that and disregarding the laws of this nation is not the way to do that. So we're committed to addressing that issue. Certainly welcome people through the legal process to where we know who they are, and the priorities of the President and Congress are respected as far as the number of people that are let in and things of that nature. That's above my authority and knowledge on how those processes work. But if you're going to break the law, no matter what law it is, we're going to address that.
And I know that you said obviously there's been prior collaboration and joint efforts between BCSO and all of the lovely agencies that we have here. But in terms, you said especially with the new administration, especially in the last 4 or 5 months, there's been a force multiplier. And what would you attribute some of those, maybe a few added freedoms or a few of the things that you think have changed specifically to allow you guys to be able to start taking the steps to multiply that force?
I think it's a recognition of the problem that was caused with the southwest border being open, or individuals that are overstaying a visa. You know, a part of it is the fentanyl epidemic. We've talked repeatedly about overdose deaths and overdoses. Fentanyl does not appear out of the sky or does not grow as a plant in the United States of America. It comes across the border. So security of the border is tantamount. I think it was 2021, over 70,000 Americans lost their lives to overdoses of illegal drugs. And that's one of the driving forces, I know, for me in prioritizing this, is making sure that the border is secure and that we don't have criminals in the United States.
So a priority for added border security, you would say, would have been one of those?
Absolutely, that's a big part of it. And I think I think your question was what has changed, and I think it's the priority of the administration.
Anytime we have one of these, whether it's you and your office and the other local agencies coming together, or even getting national, as we obviously have here as well, you always talk about how this is everybody coming together for the same cause. And that's what I found here at the Panhandle, especially law enforcement agencies, is that everybody has to be operating on the same page. And what would you say to the fact that everybody here is?
Yeah, it's something that I place a high priority on, and I know everybody behind me does, is that we are cohesive in our fight against crime, and that doesn't happen everywhere. There's places where, you know, the federal government doesn't get along with the state government, and some local agencies are not pulling in the same direction. It's a priority of mine and everybody here behind me to ensure our goal is to fight crime and to keep our citizens safe, not engage in turf wars or arguments over that. So it is a strength of our relationships that allows us to make sure that Bay County is safe. Not that we're the only place that has great partnerships, but again, it's a priority of all of ours, and it makes this community safer.
Just a couple more questions for me, sorry. I know you said 18 deputies are going through that process. We also have some Bay County jail personnel. How were these individuals selected to become participants in this course, or was it a volunteer situation?
It was a little bit of both. I think everybody that's involved in it is, you know, willing to take on those extra duties as well, because it is extra training, extra duties. But we did select them primarily based on where their assignment is. A lot of it is, you know, all of the jail individuals. We wanted to have enough coverage to where we would have. So we've got, you know, in order to cover 24/7, 365, we've got 8 4 shifts. So we wanted to have several warrant service officers at every shift at the jail. As far as our 287G, which is the law enforcement task force model, we wanted to make sure that we had 24/7 coverage. So we will have 2 287G task force officers, hopefully on every shift. So we always have one in service, as well as for these special operations, we have our warrants division. A lot of the task force model is heavily centered around our warrants division that will work when we have these special operations jointly with our partners.
And adding on to that, earlier you mentioned a lack of immigration enforcement resources in this Panhandle area specifically. Would you say that that's one of the solutions, is in-house training?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think those resources are going to be increasing as the new administration prioritizes that. But it takes time to hire people and stand up those resources. And since we all have this priority, we can serve as force multipliers. And we're grateful that the federal government has a process by which we can be more involved in that process.
Obviously, 178 since January 1st and 21 in Operation Staycation. Did you mention when exactly was the 2-day period of Operation Staycation?
It was May 6th and May 7th.
And although we're here to highlight those 2 days because it was an all-out effort, we've done several operations over the last 4 or 5 months that have resulted in much more than this 178. This 178 represents individuals in the past 4 or 5 months that have committed state felonies and misdemeanors who have been arrested and taken to the Bay County Jail. We coordinate with ICE and say, we've got this person, they don't have a social security number or they don't have the appropriate documentation. We communicate with ICE, who does a check and says, yes, that person is likely here in the country illegally, and we want to put a hold on them. So when that occurs, once the state charges are resolved or they've made bond, then we transfer that individual from the Bay County Jail into ICE custody.
My understanding, just to clarify something you just said, are you saying that all 178 of these legal aliens that were obviously part of this program, part of since January 1st, they all committed a first crime? And you talked about
These 178, not so when we do a special operation like Operation Staycation, most of those are not booked through the Bay County Jail. So that would not include the 21 that were arrested or are not included in that 178 number. They would be taken directly during that operation to an ICE detention facility. Am I correct on that?
Correct.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
Thanks,